And as I come running out, I've got the beer under my arm, I'm sprinting, and I look at my dad and go, get in the car. Just get in the car. I think as a car guy, you're always into different car movies when you're growing up and things like that. You know, we've all seen Bullet and we've all seen Gone in 60 Seconds. And, you know, actually funny enough, when I was growing up, I didn't want to see the Cannonball Run at first because I was so into like the actual history and reading the magazine articles and reading the book. I was worried the movie would spoil it for me. But I eventually watched the movie, obviously. But the one movie that I saw early on and I loved was Smokey and the Bandit. And that was so cool. The idea of these guys like running all the way to get this beer and then running it back in time. I always thought, man, that'd be kind of fun to do something like that. And, you know, you're 16, 17 years old and you're like, oh, every time I go to the grocery store, I'm basically the bandit, right? Or I'm the snowman and you pretend someone's blocking for you. When I got into the Cannonball community, one thing I didn't realize at first was there are a lot of other Smokey and the Bandit fans out there too. And one of the biggest Smokey and the Bandit fans you'll ever find, arguably a bigger Smokey and the Bandit fan than Arnie Toman, is Taylor Hall. And he has been running this race called the Southern Classic for the last several years, where we all get together in Atlanta and we start at roughly where the movie took place. And we drive to Texarkana, Texas. We buy a pack of Coors Banquet beer and we drive it back to Atlanta. And the fastest time wins. So that was a race I always wanted to do. But Taylor, I think one of the cool things about it, he's very specific. You have to have a car that would be period correct for one of the Smokey and the Bandit movies. And I never really had a car that was going to work for that. So I was just always kind of waiting for an opportunity to do it. Well, one year I happened to talk to Taylor and he's like, well, as long as it looks like it's from that age, right? Like they had some different things with like Fox Body Mustangs and whatnot. And I said, well, I've got this Volvo 240 that I took on the musketball run with my dad. And I said, you know, they started making Volvo 240s in like 79, 80. You know, my car is a 90, but if you look at it, like no one's going to pick out a Volvo 240. And I said, if it's any consolation, this was a musketball car. We're not going to win anything. We just want to do it. And he's like, no problem. Absolutely. Come on. Enjoy the race. Have fun. So naturally, if I'm going to drive a Volvo 240, what better co-driver than to tap my dad? He had done the musketball with me in that car, and that was the reason I bought that car. I got the A-Prof license plate on it, which was his plate when I was growing up as a kid. So I was like, well, this is perfect. Call Dad. Hey, we're going to go do a beer run. We're going to do this Southern Classic. So he goes, great, that sounds fun. And he's all getting excited. He's like, well, what are we going to do to the car? I said, no. We're not going to win. We're just going down there to have fun. And one of the cool things was Taylor had made a rule that year that if you didn't like your start time that you had picked, or if you didn't think you were going to be competitive, you can leave with the first batch right at 11 p.m. And I told my dad, I said, we're going to be so slow that if we don't leave at 11, everyone's going to be waiting for us. It's going to be embarrassing. But if we leave right away at 11, eventually throughout the race, everyone will pass us. And so it will start at the front, we'll finish at the end, but we'll always be in the pack. So it'd be great. So took very little convincing. Dad's on board. We'll leave at 11. Now, the interesting thing about the Southern Classic is you start in Atlanta and you pick up the beer in Texarkana. Texarkana is in the central time zone. Atlanta is in the eastern time zone. In Texarkana, you can't buy beer until 7 a.m. State law. So you have to factor in, I start in Atlanta, how much time will it take me to get to Texarkana, account for the time change. And if you get there too early, you're sitting at the gas station waiting until 7 a.m. So it's Volvo 240. This is not going to be an issue for us. So we get in the car and we take off. And it's us and a couple guys in the cab. They'd taken the Cannonball cab, a couple other cars. We all took off. And the cab and us are out in front of the slowest of the slow. And we get around Birmingham or whatever, and we eventually pass the cab, and it's just us. We are making decent time. And we're trading off. We stop every 150, 160 miles to get gas. We're making decent time. And all of a sudden, we're getting into Louisiana, and I look at my dad, I go, we're going to get in before 7. And then as we're moving up through Louisiana, we're getting in Arkansas. I said, we're going to get in at like 6:30. What do we do? We got a couple of options. We can slow down, because what's the point? Like, don't risk a ticket, because you don't need it anyway. You're just going to be sitting in the gas station. I said, actually, we're kind of tired. I said, why don't we just keep all in here? We'll get to the gas station. We'll top off with gas. There's a Denny's, like, right down the street. We'll go get some breakfast. We'll go back at 7, grab the beer, and turn around and go. We don't care, right? We decide that's a good idea. So we get to the gas station, and I said, why don't you top off with gas just on a whim? I'm going to go inside. And I brought a $100 bill with me, and my plan was I'm going to grab a case of beer. and I'm going to slip the clerk $100. I'm going to say, I don't care when you ring this up, but I need to take this with me right now. And that was my plan. And everybody had said, oh, they'd tried bribing the clerk years before and it never worked. And as I'm walking into the gas station, there's a guy a couple pumps over and he's having problems. And so I see the manager of the station walking out to help the guy at the pump. So I walk in, go over, grab the beer, go over to the register, and there's this young guy, he must have been new there or something, who's working the register. I set the beer on the counter and I reach for my wallet because I'm going to pull out the money to bribe the guy. And as I'm looking down, I hear beep. The guy scanned the beer. And I look up and he looks at me and goes, anything else? I was like, no. So I took my credit card out of my wallet, tapped it to pay, and I was like, okay, I have a credit card that shows that I paid for this. He prints out the receipt. I grab the receipt, I grab the beer, and I run out of this gas station. Now I'm running out of this gas station. I had no idea that we're going to be able to do this. My dad is filling up the car with gas. And as I come running out, I've got the beer under my arm, I'm sprinting, and I look at my dad and go, get in the car. Just get in the car. He is so taken aback. He has no idea what's going on. I don't know if he thinks I stole the beer or what, but he's like holding the gas nozzle, and he looks at me and goes like this. All of a sudden, he's got gas all over his shoes and everything. He's like, what happened? I said, I don't know. They sold me the beer. So we're standing there. We're like, we don't know what to do. Like, is this legal? Can we do this? So I set the beer on the hood. I put the receipt next to it, and I start taking a video. And I'm like, hey, here's my beer. Here's my receipt. I bought it today. Here's the time. Are we good? Like, does this count? Can we turn around and go back? And I sent it off to Taylor and a couple of the other guys who were in charge of running the run. They definitely had some conversation about it. And eventually they were like, he bought the beer. He has a receipt. I guess it works. Yeah, I guess it counts. So my dad and I are like, wow, we've got like a 45-minute jump on what we thought we were going to have. So we get back in the car and start peeling off. Now, we're all using this app called Joiner, right? And so on Joiner, you can see all these little dots because everybody's a dot on there. And you can see all these little dots moving towards Texarkana. And you can see that they're starting to, the ones that are close are starting to slow down because they realize there's no point in getting there early. And all of a sudden, you see one dot starting to go back. And people start asking in the chat, they're like, why are Nick and Chuck going back? What's going on? And somebody let it slip. They're like, they bought beer. They figured out how to get beer. Well, now, like, all bets are off, right? And so we are heading down the highway in Arkansas, heading towards Louisiana, and we start seeing all the other cars that had slowed down to take their time to get into Texarkana. They're pedal to the floor, and we start seeing them come passing us because they're like, oh my gosh, we can go get beer. Turns out, as soon as we had left the station, the manager went back in, realized what had happened, and, I don't know, explained to that employee very sternly that that was not to happen again. And it wasn't long after we left that 3 or 4 of the guys showed up in their cars and they all run in to buy the beer. The manager's like, nope, not until 7. So they're all sitting there at the gas station waiting and we're still trucking along in this little Volvo 240. We made it through Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi before anyone even got close to us. Now, eventually, this is just the way it's going to work when you're trying to race a Volvo 240 across the country. We got to Mississippi, there was a traffic jam, and everything starts slowing down. So that just means it gives time for everybody else to start catching up to us. And we get into Alabama. Cameron and Aaron have this Mercedes with the 6.9. This thing is built to the nines. It is an amazing car. It ran the US Express, set the competitive event record, and they've got this thing out on the Smoky and the Bandit Run. And you know that they're going to start catching up to us. So they come up, and we can see them coming up behind us. I had brought a radar gun with me, though. So as they're coming up behind us, I tap my dad, I go, watch this. And we just give the trigger on the radar gun a couple pulls, and you can see them start to back off. And then they'd start catching up again, give a couple of little clicks, and they'd start to back off again. Eventually, they got past us, and we saw them kind of going in front of us, and then we tap the gun again, and you'd see the brake lights turn on. And this was extra fun, because from behind them, you can see the brake lights turn on. You can see their heads going like this in the car, looking everywhere. Finally, we pulled up alongside of them, and I gave it a long pulse, and I held it up out the window and shook it at them. They waved back, possibly with not all their fingers at the same time, but they understood what was going on, and so they took off. But getting back to Atlanta, they got in first, and we were right behind them. We were the second team to pull in, and not by much. Just with all that going on, we were able to still finish ahead of everybody else. So we were able to stand in the parking lot and watch the rest of the teams come in. That was a great experience to be able to see them and congratulate them and cheer them in and everything. But when everybody would come back in the parking lot, one of the first things they would do is they'd come over and go, how did you buy that beer before? I don't know, I just got lucky. That was a fun experience. It was a great way to take my dad out and do another run with him. And I think one of my favorite parts about the whole thing, though, the lasting impression, right? We joke, how do you break rules in a race with no rules? And at the drivers' meeting after the event and the awards banquet that year, Taylor announced that there was a new rule for the Southern Classic going forward called the Professor Rule, where you are not allowed to buy beer before 7, even if they will sell it to you. At the awards banquet the next day, Taylor had set it up so he's got 2 different classes. He's got, I think it's the Bandit class and the Outlaw class, or whatever it was at the time. And because the car was technically a 1990, we were in the Outlaw class. So we finished 2nd overall in the Outlaw class. We were right behind Joe and his Corvette. But Taylor does a great job of giving out awards for other things that happen. You have like the Meltdown Award for the best breakdown, the Living Dead Award for the guys who look the most haggard getting out of the car and everything. And he had an award called the Bandit Award. And we won that award because he and apparently the rest of the crew there agreed that of everybody who was driving in the event, we're the closest to anybody who actually bootlegged liquor or beer, because we were the only ones who actually illegally bought it and then brought it back.
This month of VINwiki content is brought to you by Premier Financial Services, and they are the perfect partner in your journey to own your dream car, because their Simple Lease is the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. You'll get all the benefits of a leasing structure, like lower payments and better tax treatment, along with everything we love about a normal exotic car loan, where you can trade in and out at any time, always know where you stand thanks to their amortization table, and accumulate equity for whenever you're finished and ready for the next car. And Premier is great because they're wholly owned and backed by First Financial Bank, which means they have more buying power than any other exotic car bank or collector car bank in the United States, and their customer service is unmatched. Also, rates are lower than they have been in a very, very long time, so it's never been a better time to reach out to Premier, talk to their representatives, learn what you can pre-qualify for, and let them help you own the car of your dreams with Premier Financial Services.